Right. Okay. Thanks, Donna. Thanks for inviting us along. I don't know how much any of you know about Priority Families, but we're a city-based service. We usually operate out of the Marshall College. We work for Action for Children, apart from Gary. He's a police officer, so he works for Police Scotland. And what we do as a service is we support families and young people who have issues around antisocial behaviour. And of course, a lot of antisocial behaviour is a direct consequence of peer pressure. So, you know, it's relevant in our job, in what we do, because we're involved with a lot of young people of all ages who are subjected to pressure from their peers, and we obviously have to support them and find ways of making sure that things go right for them. So this presentation is we've incorporated some little video clips from some of the young people that we have worked with, just to give you an insight into what their views are on peer pressure. And it's a PowerPoint presentation, so we'll chuck up the slides and we'll speak through what you see, and then at the end I think that we will be answering some questions. Okay, so let's just crack on with the first slide, and throughout the presentation we'll all be speaking, obviously not at the same time. Right, let's have a look at this. Okay, can everybody see that?
Yes.
Yep. Okay. Cool. Okay. Right. Okay. So the title of the presentation is supporting young people through teen peer pressure, and the running title is "Everybody's Doing It," because that's typically what you hear from what we hear from young people. You know, oh, they're doing it. They're doing it, so I did it. So I think it's quite an apt title. So let's just crack on with a video of a young person that we worked with for quite a while. She's now sort of like doing really, really well for herself. She's come through the other end, if you like, and she's going to give you her definition of what she thinks peer pressure is.
Explain peer pressure in your own words. It's like having no control over your own choices and not getting to do what you want to do because you don't want to be left out.
Okay, and we have another young person.
Explain peer pressure in your own.
There we go. Got another young person who's going to do exactly the same.
Explain peer pressure in your own words. You're getting forced to do something that's good or bad that you don't want to do.
Okay, so that's two young people, different ages, given their insight into what they think peer pressure is. But there we go. But essentially, a definition could be that it's just as it says there, a feeling that one must do the same things as other people of one's age and social group in order to be liked or respected by them. And I think everybody can relate to that from being a young person themselves, but this can be as an adult as well. And peer pressure happens at all age groups. So, oh, we're going backwards. Sorry. There we go. So, what types of peer pressure are there? So, we've put together a list of 5 types of peer pressure, and we're individually going to have a chat about them. So I'll just start. Some of them seem quite obvious. Some of them you may have heard of. Some of them you may not have heard of. But spoken peer pressure obviously involves a person directly asking, suggesting, persuading, or otherwise directing a person to behave in a certain way or take action in a specific manner. In most cases, if the person receiving spoken peer pressure is dealing with it on a one-to-one basis, they've got a higher chance of making choices based on personal observations, experiences, and intuition. However, suppose a recipient is instructed to do something in a larger group. In that case, the pressure to conform to the group's opinion is immense, even when those views directly oppose personal beliefs and values. So even though in a group setting they recognize that it might not be the right thing to do, they're going to do it to fit in with that particular group. With regards to unspoken peer pressure, again, in a group setting, decisions that are made together can influence the actions of others, even with direct instructions. For example, if an individual is among a group that chooses to break curfew, that individual might feel pressured to follow just simply to fit in. And as previously mentioned, many teens lack the mental maturity to control their impulses that would allow them to consider long-term consequences more quickly. So they're thinking in the moment, they're acting in the moment, they're not seeing what comes next. And it's all to do with fitting in with the group that they're at.
Okay, so I'm going to speak a little bit about direct peer pressure. That comes next. So among the different types of peer pressure, direct peer pressure may be among the most powerful. It can either be spoken or unspoken. It includes pressurizing others to engage in behaviors that they may not really want to be involved in, but feel that they have no option. Everyone of all ages are susceptible to feeling some type of peer pressure at some point in their lives. Making on-the-spot decisions can be a source of extreme pressure and stress. And when in this situation, we can forget our own views in order to fit in. So that's direct. So indirect peer pressure is very similar to unspoken peer pressure. Indirect peer pressure can be subtle, but it can have a strong influence on impressionable young people. So when a teen, for example, overhears a friend gossiping about another person, then they react to the gossip. This is indirect peer pressure. Or if, for example, a young person learns that the popular kids' parties include alcohol or drugs, indirect pressure may prompt them to experiment as a way to be accepted by their peers.
When a lot of people think of peer pressure, it generally comes with a negative sense. However, there's also positive interactions that can come from this, although both types of pressure generally are done in the same way. Negative peer pressure will challenge a person's moral code and their beliefs, which can drastically impact their emotional stability and their mental and physical health. As well as this, it can cause turmoil with their personal relationships, undermine their self-confidence, and increase the chances of developing dangerous habits like substance abuse. Negative peer pressure usually involves influence that sways people towards risky activity, such as criminal behavior, underage drinking and drug use, and an overall unhealthy lifestyle. On the other side, though, with positive peer pressure, this can have an opposite effect and be beneficial to the person. In this specific type of peer pressure, young persons can and may adopt good traits within their social circles, leading to success and well-being. These types of influences can deter drug and alcohol use and promote mental wellness. This type of peer pressure can also inspire determination, focus, goal setting, strategic planning, and hard work. The concept is fairly simple. Surround yourself with the right people and discover a renewed sense of motivation.
Okay, so that's a wee bit about the types of peer pressure. I think we've got another video to show, and let's see what he's saying now.
True or false? Children can pressure each other without even speaking. Yeah, probably just with a look, I guess. Just with a dirty look, I guess.
So there we go. That's an example of indirect peer pressure, unspoken peer pressure as well, just a look. I think throughout our lives we might have all been subjected to that kind of thing.
Sure.
Oh, there we go. Yeah, there we go. So how do we identify the signs of peer pressure? So Kay is going to basically go through this wee list here. Some of them you may be familiar with.
Yeah, so we've got a list here of identifying signs that may identify peer pressure. So we'll go through a couple of them. So changes in behaviour of the young person. Look out for any changes in your child's behaviour, especially when they're around a certain group of friends. Watch for the things that they say. Watch for how they're acting and the things that they're doing, if there's any changes to any of that things. If they seem to change around certain people, this may be a sign that they feel under pressure to behave in a certain way. Another indicator may be a change in performance in school, and/or they don't want to go to school. If there's a change in your child's grades, there's a reason, and sometimes this could be down to peer pressure. Some may make a conscious effort to do badly in school, because this makes them fit in and they feel that they fit better with their peers.
Okay. So now we're looking at identifying the signs. Let's have a look at this.
What would make you give in to peer pressure? Well, probably if they said like if you don't do this, you're not gonna be my friend, or I'll spread something about you. But I don't think I would give in to peer pressure. Well, maybe at times, but maybe not for the worst things.
Okay. So that's his view on why he thinks he might or might not be given into peer pressure. So the impact, Gary?
So off the back of that wee video clip, the loon is obviously saying that he could potentially lose friends and stuff, and this is techniques that people use to put pressure on those peers. And that links in very well with vulnerability as a whole, because when kids are involved in peer pressure, they're going to end up doing things that they don't want to usually do. They're vulnerable in this situation. They feel at a loss. They may not want to lose these friends that they're doing, so they'll give in a lot easier to some areas that they don't usually do. Alongside it, the impacts, kids can lose a lot of self-confidence and self-esteem, and that also links in with the vulnerability. Young people who can't express themselves freely without pressure from others will suffer from low confidence and low self-esteem, and this can have a detrimental effect on their mental health and how they present themselves. One of the main things that a lot of people come and see from peer pressure is the criminality side of things, which isn't always the case, but is also a big contributing factor on the impacts on someone. Peer pressure can lead to antisocial behaviour and other criminal offending, such as vandalism, drugs misuse, and many people will involve themselves to try and get involved with their peers to make themselves feel wanted with these groups. But obviously, this is going to have a major impact on them later on in life, which leads on to career prospects. With the criminality aspect, youths that are involving themselves in criminality will often get a criminal record, which can affect their job prospects later on in life. So it's not thinking at the time, it's about the future and the wider implications from it. Addictions in youth, the peer pressure can lead to smoking, drinking, taking other drugs, which can affect their own physical and mental health. and it can also draw them into other criminal offending behaviour and be exploited, such as being involved in county lines, which is drug dealers taking advantage of young youths, involving them in the sale and supply of illicit substances. People can get involved into drug debts, which leads on to the financial issues, and they may end up involving themselves deeper and deeper in the problem. Some of the other impacts are they can lose the friendships, the friends that are out there saying, I won't be your friend anymore if you don't do this. Kids can often feel that they're pressured to do it if they don't want to lose those friendships. But on the backside, if they do refuse, they can lose those persons in their life. Fractured family relationships can relate on the impact that it's going to have on the parents and siblings and those around them. People may become untrustworthy with folk throughout, and it's an issue that can separate the whole family. Mental health issues, with the stress of everything going on within the families and with the youth, it can lead to serious problems in their mental health. It can lead them to feeling low self-esteem back on that, which can end up with self-harm, depression, other areas around there. And exploitation, I've touched on that before. With exploitation, we have concerns about the pressure of kids involving themselves in being abused by others throughout that. Kids will be put into situations that they can't see a way out of and then end up involving themselves even further, likes of involving themselves in the sale of drugs. Other areas of exploitation can be through sexual exploitation as well, when kids are being egged on to send images of themselves to others. That's a criminal offence in itself, but once that's being done and sent, they can be exploited further due to fear of repercussions of it being sent on to other persons. And that's why social media is such an important area to be aware of in terms of your child. You don't know what's happening online, and peer pressure doesn't happen just in the schools and in person. A lot of it is online these days.
Yeah, thanks for that, Gary. Brilliant. Okay. This might be familiar to some people. It's certainly familiar to me as a parent, when being friends is preferable. Well, being with your friends is preferable to being with your parents. So, and basically, if parents aren't able to give young people the space they need, then the teenagers often react by trying to create it for themselves. And the most effective means for them of doing this is through conflict. Negative parental response to a teenager's attempt to assert their separateness is likely to create tension and a potential battleground. So when your teenager knows you disapprove of something or someone in their life, it generally fuels their determination to do it or be with that person even more. Once a young person has come to the conclusion that it's uncomfortable being at home with a parent because of the growing tensions, and that being with their friends is comfortable and easy, they then become vulnerable to agreeing to take part in risky behaviour that can be far worse than just dressing in black or dyeing their hair. So it's not that they don't like you, it's not that they hate you, despite that they say that a lot. It's just that they need a bit of space because they're obviously growing, they're developing, and if they're met with resistance, then the option for them is to find somewhere where they feel they belong, and that's with a peer group. Okay. Tips for teens. So how do we help these young teenagers then?
So we've got a list on the slide of some tips that we'll have for teens. I'm going to go through some of the tips that we would use, or we would advise the young people we work with. So the first one would be trust your own feelings about what's right and wrong. Ask yourself, is it the right thing to do? And we think that you probably already knew the answer to that. I think most people probably do deep down. Have a friend who will stand with you. It can be really, really helpful if there's more than one of you that can stand up and say no together. Choose good friends. This will help you to avoid peer pressure. and walk away, especially if you're alone. Find other friends to hang around with in the future. And then get help from someone you trust. This could be a parent, a teacher, a family member. Go to them and speak to them, and they can help prepare you for the next time that you might face peer pressure in your life.
Okay, there may be more that people can help young people with, but that's just a condensed version there. Okay, so
Is it hard to say no to friends? Yeah, because if you say no and you don't agree with what they're doing, then they'll think that you're different and that you're not like them and you don't want to do the same thing as them. So yeah, it's quite hard.
Can friends be a good influence on each other? It depends on who the friend is, because some friends that you like could be like good, and some friends you like have like a bad side and you know about it, and you try to act like you find it funny, but you really don't.
okay, there's a couple of views from the young people there on peer pressure.
Can friends
Oops, jumped one. There we go. So we've spoken about tips for teens. What about the parents? Well, on the slide, we've got a number of headings there. I think one of the things that, as a support service, we encourage with the families and the parents that we work with is try to stay positive, because things change. Do not assume the worst for your, or your teenager will as well. And we work with parents who don't have the most positive view of their teenagers, and the knock-on effect of that is the teenagers don't have the most positive view of themselves. So stay positive, look for signs of change, and notice and highlight when things go well. Try to be a positive voice in their life, because it affirms that they can have a positive future even if things are difficult. Now, it's easy for well, it can be easy for parents to highlight all the things that the teenager's doing wrong. Like, you're doing this wrong, you're doing that wrong, you're not going to get this, you're not going to get that. But it's important that the teenagers hear the positive things about themselves and what they are doing. Even the smallest things, if like they get out of bed in the morning, you know, that can be a victory for a parent whose child never gets out of bed in the morning. So, you know, pick them up on that and encourage them, and then the knock-on effect could be that they will keep getting up. Like who they are, okay? Now that might sound a bit odd, but try to separate the behavior from the person. There's a big difference between not liking a person and not liking what they're doing, okay? So try to separate the behavior from the person. Remember all the good qualities. Try not to be overpowered by what you don't like about the behavior right now, because, as we said, the behavior can change. And in fact, essentially, a teenager might be behaving badly, but that doesn't make them a bad person. And one bad decision doesn't make a person a bad person. Be there for them. Contrary to how it may seem at times, your teenagers do want to talk to you, but you need to let it be in their time and at their pace. Listen to their ideas, don't interrupt or try to tell them what to do, because they think that if you're going on like that, they're just going to shut down and they're not going to listen, and they're not going to be open to anything that you've got to say. Reassure them. A lot of teenagers are scared by the feelings that they're experiencing. They're scared by what's going on in their peer group. They're scared by the responsibilities that they might have to take on. So listen to their ideas. It's important not to interrupt them. Let them speak, and don't try and tell them what to do. They need lots of reassurance that they're not going mad and that they will cope and that they can get out of this. Consistency is key in all of this. When it comes to setting boundaries, you have to be consistent and respect their boundaries as well, and help them to foster their own sense of security while all this turmoil is going on. Be ready to discuss the rationale behind your behaviour and your rules. So basically explain why you're doing this and what you're hoping to achieve by this. Be approving. Research confirms that both males and females have higher self-esteem in teenage years if they think that they have the approval and the support of their families. Patience is key with any teenager. While they're trying to find the right balance of behaviours and independence, they can often swing too far in the opposite direction. However, in time, the pendulum can swing back and settle in a more comfortable position. So just be patient. And at the same time, be gentle. Even though your teenager might act as if they're indestructible, their emotions are really still very fragile. So handle them with care. Honesty. Sometimes you'll feel stressed and emotional yourself. Don't be afraid of letting your teenager know how you feel. Each time you do, you're showing them that it's okay not to be perfect. It's okay not to have all the answers. And it's important for you yourself to be supported. Don't do this on your own, especially when times are tough. Talk it through with someone who won't judge or criticize you. Find a friend, a family member, a counsellor who can offer support and encouragement. And take time out to vent any frustrations rather than bottling things up and letting things rip at home. It's not so easy to forgive and forget, but be prepared to manage the conflict and arguments, repair your relationships with your teen, and move on. And there's no point in digging up stuff that's happened that's already been addressed, and that's just going to set you back. If you don't find a way to let go of past resentments, then they won't either. They'll hold it against you. Small disagreements soon turn into huge arguments, leaving you both wondering, how did this actually happen? Be hopeful, because this might be a phase that they're going through. It's normal for teenagers to drift away from and even reject their parents, but it's also normal for them to come back and develop a meaningful relationship that will last the rest of your lives. Be healthy. In order for you to get through this for yourself and for your teenager, being healthy, both physically and mentally, can help you cope and support your child and support yourself. Okay, so hopefully that's giving you an idea. There we go.
So one of the most important things when tackling peer pressure is communication. It's quite difficult to build on that, but it's often easier to introduce different topics while you're doing something together with your family. So try taking a walk or just doing the washing up, as it can be a lot more comfortable than sitting down for a big conversation. It can be intimidating when you're sitting face to face with someone being challenged. So utilize other tools to try and build on that. Be calm and listen. Let them know that they can always come to you. If they're worried about something, make sure you remain calm and open when they do. Let them talk. It's really easy, and really listen before you respond. Half of communication is listening. You need to be able to sit down and hear what another person is saying before you can try and support them in their own problems going on. Don't lecture a young person, as they won't want to open up and talk with you. After constantly talking at them and picking out all their flaws, they can often retract and refuse to bring out that information that you're looking to obtain. Once they know they're being listened to, they can be honest and get personal, and provide much more information for you to support them with. Try not to blame yourself. Some conflict is inevitable with teenage years, and asserting independence from parents is a natural part of growing up. People make mistakes and they learn from them, so try and support them throughout that. Try and ask your child's opinion. on as many things as you can in the family life and respect them as an equally valuable member of the family. If our kids grow up in an environment where their voice is heard and respected, they will accept this as the norm and be better equipped to say no when their peers pressure them into unwanted behaviour. Build your child's resilience. Teach them to have the confidence to make positive choices and say no to something that does not sit right with them. Having a strong sense of self-help can build them resilience against any forms of adversity in their lives. Encourage them to get to know who they are, what values they hold, and help them take time out of their work, take time to work on themselves. Encourage your child or teen to see the bigger picture when faced with adversity. Share your experiences with them so they can see you understand what they are going through. Let them know that everything has a process, and sometimes we have to go through these things to come out the other end stronger. Young people will only learn to value themselves if those around them value them first. Give them lots of positive encouragement and praise. They will give them the necessary springboard to be assertive and have the confidence to say no to peer influence and pressure.
Thanks for that, Gary. So that's us. We're done. The last slide is just some resources. If you want to look further into this, and we work for Action for Children, so obviously we're going to put up one of our links, but there's really good parent resources on Action for Children website. Online safety, some links there, substance misuse and mental health, and the police as well. So that's it. We're done.
Thank you very much, folks, for that informative input. I'd like to now ask our parents that have just listened to that, if you've got any questions that you'd like to pose to Andy, Kay, or Gary, just please use the chat box, or if you want to put your hand up, then I can do that, but it's probably easier to do it in the chat box. One of the things that I know, just while you're having a think, one of the things that I have found working with young people over the years is that sometimes they don't want to open up initially, and if you do see that there's been changes in their well-being, or some of the indicators that you were saying, is just giving them that space to open up, but sometimes they're worried about what parents are going to do as a result of when they do share that. So I think it's really important to be calm and to just some of the key things that you were mentioning, because we know that if we go straight to the source or remove them from the peer group or all of that, sometimes that is worse for them. So I think as adults, we want to rescue, we want to protect our children, but it's just about being in the moment with them. So I don't know if you want to maybe, I was just thinking about particularly for girls, they can be quite, well, I think both boys and girls can be quite use social media and use their phones, and they're shooting from the hip sometimes and haven't developed their communication skills, so they're using their phones, and this is something I've experienced as a parent myself. So I just wondered if you had any top tips around that, that you've that you could share some of your wisdom on that how you've coached and supported folks from being, I suppose, bullied, really, because I suppose the peer pressure can be a form of bullying too. And I know you haven't used that word, but is there anything you'd want to kind of share with our audience around that?
I think the online social media type thing, that is a point that a lot of parents struggle to deal with and manage, because they won't necessarily know ways that they can put on protective passwords, ways that they can monitor, especially the ones that we in the police see it a lot with is Snapchat. Kids will pressure other kids into doing things. They'll be abusive or bully, as you say, on these applications. But with likes of Snapchat, the conversations are deleted, so it's really difficult to monitor that. What I would say is keeping an eye on your children's mood when they're on their devices is key. You don't want to completely remove devices, but certain applications are age appropriate as well. Facebook, they say you have to put in your date of birth. If you're under 16, you shouldn't have Facebook. But the amount of kids that are younger than that are accessing these devices, these applications, is heaps of them are doing it. Kids we work with, younger than 16, 10 years old, primary kids are accessing Snapchat, WhatsApp, Facebook, TikTok, all these different applications. So if a kid is using these things, it's monitoring their moods as they're using them, making sure you've got the right restrictions put on them, because you can go into the terms of use on all these applications. You can prevent certain applications being downloaded. You just need to go into the settings of them on the device to ensure that. Preventative is important. So if you can put those in place prior to them having access to everything, it's a good preventative measure. Making sure that you know who are the friends that they have on these applications. So when you do see, if you do see a change in mood, you can openly speak about it.
Yeah, it's difficult for parents because they can't keep on top of what's going on in social media. It moves so quickly. And for a parent to know how to use all the apps that the children are using is a bit unrealistic. But if they can get to grips with the main ones like Snapchat and Instagram, and TikTok as well, because we do work with primary school kids who've got all these on their phones, and the parents let them have them on their phone, and they're not old enough to have them on their phone. But the reason why they've got them on their phone is because their mates have got them on their phone, and then they start kicking up a fuss with their parents, saying, "Oh, he's got it." And for some parents, it's easier just to say, "Right, okay," than it is to explain, the dangers, the risks, because social media. A lot of the children that we work with, they don't know how to handle themselves on social media. They don't know how to do it properly, especially younger ones, and they end up watching so much inappropriate stuff. YouTube. The stuff that kids are watching on YouTube is scary. So, sitting down with young people and asking, "You've got this app, what does this app do?" And just get them to explain what the app does, and then go and investigate it, download it on your own phone, see what it does, see how it works, so that at least you're on a level playing field with, your children as to what they're actually using. But yeah, social media is
thanks. For parents that are on tonight, there's the Safer Schools app that every school is signed up to, and in there's small videos about how to use the different apps. And if you go onto the Parent Learning Hub, I've got quite a few links there that you could get, you could actually access. So Louise has just said that lack of understanding regarding the repercussions, and that is true, that because some children are immature in their with their behaviours, particularly online, because you're not actually meeting someone face to face. They're distant, so that they don't have that kind of radar or filter. So is there anything else that somebody would say? I'm just conscious of the time. It's coming up for 1:15. If folks want to ask something else, could I encourage you to just complete the feedback form? We're always wanting to improve, and just and if you've got any suggestions. We do have a Stronger Families session on the 8th of June called Safer, Fun and Safe Online Places for Young People. So that's about just keeping your child safe over the summer as they move out of school and into the summer where they're out and about. So tune into that, and that's Cyber Safe Scotland. That's just a wee plug, but it's just while we're on the subject of online safety. So, yep, if we don't have, it doesn't seem to be any, I think you've maybe covered all the bases there, guys. So I want to just say thank you to everyone tonight for coming along. If you wouldn't mind just filling out that wee application, it'll take you about, I don't know, 40 seconds, 45 seconds to do that. And we really thank you for doing that.